For our final assignment, we were told to watch the film Learning to Drive and analyze one of the character's emotions throughout a scene of our choice. The character I'm going to be discussing is Darwan Singh Toor. Throughout the film, you come to know Darwan as a driving teacher as well as a cab driver. Since 2000, Darwan has been a legal citizen of America. He lives in a home with several other men some of which are not legal citizens. The scene I have chosen to discuss is when he is coming home from work to meet several ICE police officers outside his house. These officers are taking two of his fellow housemates away as they are not legal citizens of America. When Darwin is asked for his papers, he, however, is allowed to proceed into his house as he is a legal citizen. The three topics I have chosen to discuss in relation to the topics discussed throughout this semester are emotion families, the Schachter-Singer two-factor theory of emotion, as well as negative emotions. Let's begin with emotion families. Dr. Paula Ekman researched in psychology and came across evidence that led him to believe that emotions can be grouped into families. This essentially means that all basic emotions belong to a particular emotion family. Each emotion falls under a category, as after years of research, Dr. Paul Ekman discovered you can see more than one emotion at a time. In this case, it would be considered an emotion family. Even though emotions can be labeled something different, there are many situations when you are experiencing more than one emotion at a time that fall under the same emotion family. Various triggers influence this. In the scene when Darwan is coming home to his roommates being arrested, you can see this is happening when he goes downstairs looking for Rishi. At this time, Darwan is experiencing many basic emotions belonging to the anger emotion category. Basic emotions such as irritation and frustration of not knowing where Rishi is or if something had happened to him. He uses nonverbal communication such as touching his head to express this. These two emotions he is experiencing at the same time fall under the anger category emotion family. The next emotion Darwan displays in this scene is relevant to the Schachter-Singer two-factor theory of emotions. This theory is applicable when an emotion occurs and then it causes you to have a physiological response. However, you do not have an emotional response until you label the situation. Once you identify the reason for your physiological response that is happening and how it makes you feel, then you can identify the emotion you are experiencing. The reason it is called the two-factor theory is because you first have your physiological arousal and then you assess the situation and determine your appropriate emotional response. Darwan experiences this in the same scene as discussed earlier. When he first arrives home and is met with officers, although he has a good idea of why the officers are there, he does not know who the officers have arrested. While talking to the one officer, he sees two of his housemates being arrested. However, he does not know if they had already come out of the house arresting others prior to that or not. When the officer leaves, he proceeds into the living room and sees that it has been torn apart. While he is shouting Rishi and no one is answering at this point, he does not know if they have arrested Rishi before he had come home. Once he goes into the kitchen and hears something from under the sink, he opens it up and Rishi is hidden under there, unharmed and safe. This is a great example of the Schachter-Singer two-factor theory of emotion because during this time, like I mentioned, he is unaware of the full situation. He is having a psychological response of being jittery around the officer as well as making sudden movements and breathing heavily. As he is unaware of his emotional reaction, he does not know how to properly label the situation. Once he discovers that they have made arrests and he knows that it is possible that Rishi is not in the house and that he may in fact have been arrested, this can then cause him to label his emotions as soon as he discovered the situation. After Darwan successfully found Rishi under the sink, he made a comment saying he thought that they had gotten him that time. This proves that Darwan had labeled the situation as unknowing where Rishi was or if they had gotten him or not. That then led to his emotional response based on him identifying the situation as Rishi possibly being gone. You can tell by his face by using the facial emotion theory that Darwan was experiencing a combination of emotions. These emotions he was experiencing were surprise, but mostly fear. The slight surprise comes from his mouth being slightly open, indicating there was a slight surprise. However, the main emotion he is feeling is fear. Fear for his friends and fear not knowing where Rishi is. This can be shown through his eyebrows being raised and pulled up together, as well as raised upper eyelid and the tense lower eyelid. This leads us into the third and final topic. The last topic we have discussed throughout this semester that is relevant to the scene has to do with negative emotions. Negative emotions involve emotions such as sadness, fear, anger, and disgust. As talked about before within this scene, you can not only see Darwan displaying surprise and fear, however, throughout the whole scene, I have chosen not just that particular part of the scene that was relevant to the two-factor theory of emotion. You can see Darwan displaying all four of these negative emotions. Let's begin with discussing sadness. Sadness can be identified as an unpleasant situation. In most cases, there is an external event causing the individual to feel sad. However, it is not necessarily due to something the individual had done. Typically, the outcome of sadness is not reversible, and it is out of the individual's control. Darwan's situation during this scene applies to these typical results of sadness. The unpleasant situation he is experiencing is because two of his housemates are being arrested, and he is unaware of where Rishi is and if he is okay. This feeling of sadness, nor the situation, is not because of anything Darwan had done. Therefore, it was an external cause for his sadness. This outcome of his roommate being arrested not only is irreversible, but it is out of Darwan's control. Not only do these three results that typically come from sadness help prove that sadness is one of the negative emotions he is feeling, but you can also determine that by his face by using the facial emotion theory. The facial emotion theory for sadness shows that if someone is feeling sad, typically their upper eye is drooping and they are losing focus in the eyes, as well as a slight frown is created by the pulling down of the lip corners. In the part of the scene when Darwan is seeing his friends being arrested, he is feeling sad. That is when you can see his eyes drooping, the loss of focus, as well as his lip corners going down in a slight frown manner. The next negative emotion he displays in this scene is fear. The emotion fear is caused when you are feeling a threat that is real or imagined, such as danger, evil, pain, etc. This feeling of fear is caused by the pain of when he is unsure where Rishi is. As mentioned before, when discussing the two-factor theory of emotion, his fear can be shown through the facial emotion theory. As his eyebrows are risen and pulled back together, his upper eyelid is raised, and he has a tense lower eyelid. The third negative emotion is anger. Anger is an emotion towards something you feel has done you wrong, and it is a strong response to a threat or being hurt. Darwan experiences a strong response to him being hurt, leading to anger. This is seen in the part of the scene when Rishi was found and he was okay. He then told Darwan that he is moving in with his girlfriend in order to avoid the police. After his conversation, you can see Darwan's anger. His anger is coming from being hurt by the officers taking his roommates, as well as Rishi leaving him to live with his girlfriend. As his anger is mainly caused by a response of him being hurt, it is not a violent response. Therefore, his facial emotion is not as severe as sometimes seen when anger becomes more aggressive. However, you can still see it in his eyebrows being pulled back and down together. His eyes are staring straight ahead in the same spot, and his lips are narrowed as he is experiencing anger. The fourth and final emotion, considered a negative emotion that Darwan experiences in this scene, is disgust. Disgust is a feeling of disapproval by something unpleasant. Typically, we have this emotional reaction because we find something unpleasant. This is in order to save us from interacting with parasites. Although that is the most common reason we experience disgust, that is not the case in this situation. Darwin is experiencing disgust as he is experiencing disapproval from his roommates being arrested, because to him, that situation is unpleasant. This is seen after his friends are arrested and he is going into his home to look for Rishi. His nose is crinkled and his upper lip is raised. Thank you for watching my character analysis of Darwan Singh Chur in a scene of my choice from the movie Learning to Drive. Here are my references.